Tons of people are saying to get out of Bitcoin, but is that actually true? Because we asked our community if we're in a bear market or if this is just a dip before we move higher, and 15% said we're in a full-blown bear market, whereas 84% still believe that this is just a bull market dip. And emails were just published by the House Oversight Committee revealing that Jeffrey Epstein funded the Bitcoin core development. So you're not going to believe what we discovered in this video tying Epstein to Satoshi, plus what Kevin O'Leary has to say about MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor that is going to piss off a lot of Bitcoin bulls, plus what Saylor and Grant Cardone have to say about the rest of this bull run, and predictions that I made in my past couple videos that are happening right now on the charts and my expectations for Bitcoin's price, Bitcoin's dominance, altcoins, XRP, the US dollar, and the Federal Reserve's secret meeting sparking fears of a liquidity crisis on Wall Street, plus what's happening on November 22nd that you do not want to miss. So if you're still bullish, even with this market selling off, comment 777 if you're feeling blessed, if you're feeling bullish, and if you're going to become the first millionaire in your family tree. Confirm it by tapping the subscribe button. Let's run it. All right, bull runners, welcome back to the channel. So over the past 24 hours, we've seen Zcash up 19%, Telcoin, Dash, Strike, some random projects seemingly pumping while the rest of the market pulls back with Bitcoin. And if we look at the crypto fear and greed index, we're at 16 out of 100 in extreme fear. The last time we were at these levels was all the way back in March and April of this year. So on the macro, this is an incredible time to be bullish for Bitcoin over the next, decade or two, and the crypto market. But, a lot of people that are saying to get out of Bitcoin is because this pullback right here from the all-time high for Bitcoin is really falling in line with the 4-year market cycle theory, whereas no other indicator out of the bull market peak indicators from CoinGlass is saying that the top is in. They're all saying to hold 100% basically. So the 4-year market cycle theory, if you're basing everything on that, shows that the top is in, but all these other indicators aren't. So one of the most important moving averages that we're watching is the 50 SMA. You could even watch the EMA as well, and Bitcoin right now is below it. So this is not the best sign for Bitcoin. We need to see a weekly candle close above roughly $102,000. Otherwise, it could get pretty nasty. As you can see, Bitcoin has used these moving averages as support throughout this entire bull run. And so if we don't see an aggressive buy up for Bitcoin and for it to hold by the end of this weekend on Monday, and we see the candle close below the 50 EMA, well then the 50 EMA would act as resistance. And that's not a good sign, because going back to the last bear market, that's what happened for Bitcoin right here between the 3rd of January and the 10th of January. And when Bitcoin closed below it, we saw Bitcoin plummet to the downside and struggle to rally back up during the complacency stage rally. And that was the end of the bull run. So if this scenario takes place over the next few weeks and we see several weekly candle body closes below the 50 EMA, then Bitcoin could see a sell-off down to this range right here, which is roughly $88,000. Now, I'll share my thoughts on whether I think that's going to happen and what's happening with Bitcoin's dominance right now and how that will affect altcoins. So keep watching to the end of this video. We have a lot to discuss. But does that mean you should get out of Bitcoin? Does that mean you should get out of crypto? Not necessarily. And the reason why is because the stochastic RSI is in oversold conditions. We saw this fake out bullish cross here when Bitcoin rallied from $107,000 all the way up to the all-time high and then sold off in this A, B, C corrective wave. So what's happening right now is we're finishing up this C corrective wave, and I think there's going to be an aggressive recovery for Bitcoin. Now, when that aggressive recovery happens, we're going to see a bullish cross on the stochastic RSI, and we're going to see the K line and the D line both rally back above 20, like what we saw here in the middle of April. And the stochastic RSI is going to make a recovery along with the relative strength index back to the upside. So I think what's happening right now for Bitcoin is actually incredibly bullish if you have some patience here over the next few weeks, because this sell-off that we're going through reminds me of the sell-off that happened right at the beginning of March, and then Bitcoin bounced to the upside into this downtrend though, saw one final sell-off and then made a recovery back up here. So I do think on the recovery for Bitcoin, we will experience some volatility back to the downside. And if you're considering exiting the market, you don't want to exit on a red candle like this. You exit on the retrace if you believe that the top is in on the 6th of October. Now, if you don't believe the top is in and you believe we're going to go even higher, then we'll talk about our exit strategies inside of Altcoin Pro. You guys can plug in through that through the link in the description below. We have live calls every single week. The next call is coming up on Monday, and then we have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So definitely check that out because you're going to get live technical analysis, whereas these videos are pre-recorded, they're edited, they're uploaded. So by the time you watch these, the price action has already moved so much So it's important that you get real-time alpha, and that's what we provide. Now, Michael Saylor just did this interview with Grant Cardone, and here's what he said.
How low do you think Bitcoin goes in this cycle right here? If it goes any lower, where does it go?
I think it's pretty stable where it is right now. Yeah. I mean, most of the liquidation selling is out of the system. I think we should rally from here.
And then where do you think it ends?
I don't believe in 4-year cycles anyway. I mean,
I never believed in the 4-year cycle.
I think that they might have had some credence in the first 12 years, but right now, the 4-year cycle is somehow based on the idea that 225 Bitcoin a day get taken out of the supply after the next halving. That's $22 million or $20 million of buying. Trust me, $20 million of buying. The market traded $100 billion yesterday. 20 million is not even a third order issue at this point.
Yeah.
The dynamics in the market are much more that, Jerome Powell thinks he wants to hold interest rates higher for longer, right? It's macroeconomics, it's political, it's structural. When IBIT's derivatives market went from 10 billion to 50 billion, it did that in 4 weeks. I mean, so those kind of things, when JP Morgan, offers 10 or 100 billion dollars of loans against Bitcoin, that will dwarf the 4-year cycle. It's the actions of the mega finance actors that are determining the future of Bitcoin right now. And all the fundamentals are good. So my advice to anybody is, first of all, if you make decisions with a 12-month or less time frame, you're a trader.
Yeah.
If you're a trader, you're a trader. I have zero advice for you.
Right.
I'm not a trader. I'm not a good trader.
Yeah.
I don't purport to be. I have zero advice for you. On the other hand, if you're an entrepreneur or if you're an investor, you should have a time frame of 4 years or longer, 4 to 10 years.
So if Bitcoin makes a new all-time high after this death cross, we might finally say that this 4-year cycle is broken. So if Saylor doesn't believe in the 4-year cycle, well, it has to prove itself because currently the 4-year cycle is still intact with the all-time high for Bitcoin. And with us heading into this death cross, it's very likely that Bitcoin experiences a rally here in the short term. But the real question is, will that rally get rejected and form a lower high to then go into an aggressive panic, fear, anger, capitulation phase that shakes everybody out of the market over the next year? Or will Bitcoin make a new all-time high? Stay tuned. We're going to get into the charts here to show you how to make money regardless of whatever happens. But this is probably some of the craziest news that we've seen thus far, revolving around the House Oversight Committee revealing that Jeffrey Epstein funded Bitcoin core development, shedding light on Epstein's connections and influence in the early Bitcoin creation days. And this is not fake news here. You can go to oversight.house.gov here and see that they published this just a few days ago, saying that Jeffrey Epstein assisted MIT Media Lab director Joki Ito in the funding of MIT's digital currency initiative. And at least some of the funding was directed towards Bitcoin's core development. Now, this reminds me of the argument that crypto skeptics say that Bitcoin's used for like sex trafficking and all sorts of illicit, illegal activities, and they're 100% right. But the problem with that argument is so is cash. Every new industry that grows quickly, especially crypto and blockchain, I mean, it's growing faster than the internet did, is going to attract people of all walks of life. It's going to attract people that want to do good with it. It's going to attract people that want to use it for drug trafficking, tax evasion, you name it. So this isn't a deal breaker here because Epstein was a massive investor. He had a lot of money. And by no means am I justifying that, saying that what he used his money for is okay here. But here's where this is crazy. These documents are saying that Epstein had a meeting with Satoshi, and this information has been deliberately suppressed. This guy, Aaron Day, is saying he knows a guy who wrote a book about this, and 3 weeks after it was published, he was arrested and threatened with life in prison. So this goes a lot deeper than people think, because in 1992, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein appeared together at a party, and these famous pictures were taken of them two together, causing massive controversy because when Elon Musk and Donald Trump became friends, and then they had their little tiff there, well, Elon Musk went on X, and he started to post these things saying, time to drop a really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. This is the real reason they have not been made public yet. So at this stage, no one knows what to believe. Is Donald Trump really in the Epstein files, or was Elon Musk trolling to bait the left into wanting the release of the Epstein files, and Donald Trump just saying that they're fake, they're not real, so it would cause the left to want them to be released more? What's your guys' thoughts on all this? I'm really curious because we're about to see some truth bombs dropped over the next few weeks, closing out this year with a bang. Listen to this. Kevin O'Leary is now taking shots directly at Michael Saylor.
Michael Saylor is talking his book, all right? The guy sells stock and pref shares and debt and then buys Bitcoin with it. The stock trades at twice the value of the inherent Bitcoin. That smells like something that ain't going to work long term. Just saying. I like the guy, but it has nothing to do with strategic reserve of Bitcoin, which will never happen because we'll never get buy-off on a bipartisan basis.
So there's been a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt and lies spread about Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy selling Bitcoin. But they're not selling Bitcoin. They've just been transferring Bitcoin, and on-chain data can prove this. So the rumors of Michael Saylor selling 47,000 Bitcoin could be the ultimate sign of a bottom here in the short term, and we could see a recovery back to the upside. Now, let's get into the charts and let's talk about Bitcoin's dominance, because right now we've seen this retracement for Bitcoin's dominance ever since the 8th of September, when Bitcoin's dominance rallied from 57%. Then on that liquidation event, it rallied up 11% to 63. So if we just draw the fib retracement tool, technically that wick qualified as a 702 retracement. And then this one right here, also 50%. So Bitcoin's dominance could be done rallying in the short term, and we could see a rotation here because look at the stochastic RSI. It's at 90 and 88, and it's rolling over right here. So we are in overbought conditions on Bitcoin's dominance, which is why a lot of people are saying now is time to get out of Bitcoin. But if we go to the daily chart, you can see that this uptrend for Bitcoin's dominance is starting to break. You know, with these higher lows and these higher highs here, now Bitcoin's dominance is at 59% breaking to the downside. But this will be interesting to see because this could be a big fake out with the stochastic RSI still in oversold conditions here. So eventually I would expect Bitcoin's dominance to make a reversal back to the upside and the stochastic RSI to reverse as well. And then capital to rotate from altcoins that are outside the top 10 into Bitcoin, because you can clearly see here the stochastic RSI is at 91 and 83 for others market cap dominance. So once this tops out here, then I would expect that to rotate back over to Bitcoin and for others market cap dominance to see another sell-off back to the downside in the short term, because every time that we get up here in overbought conditions on the relative strength index, you know, right now we're at 61, we're getting close to 70, and the stochastic RSI getting close to 100. Well, it reminds me of what happens back here, also back here after these short-term relief rallies. So we've been going through a short-term relief rally for others dominance in a major downtrend here. And it's highly likely that others market cap dominance in this downtrend gets met with some major resistance here at this key point of confluence that we're at right now. And so I would expect this to roll back to the downside. And simultaneously, when that happens, I would expect that liquidity to rotate back over to Bitcoin's dominance because of where the stochastic RSI is at right now, and for us to see this turn up with the dominance recovering back to the upside. So based on that, that doesn't mean you should get out of Bitcoin if you want exposure to the crypto market. It actually means that Bitcoin is going to be safer than holding altcoins outside of the top 10. Now, Bitcoin's death cross is happening right now, and there's a high likelihood that it sends Bitcoin higher because every time the 50 moving average slipped below the 200 moving average, Bitcoin rallied to new all-time highs. Now, this time around might not be a new all-time high. It's really a 50-50 coin flip here, but there's a high probability that Bitcoin rallies higher. And the real question is, will it get met with a lower high and we go into the bear market, or do we go to a new all-time high? Nobody knows the answer to that there, but the probabilities is what we watch, and then I'll show you how to make money regardless of whatever happens here in a little bit. Because looking back at September 2023, after this death cross, Bitcoin rallied 195%. In August of 2024, Bitcoin rallied 125%. In April of 2025, Bitcoin rallied 70%. So these relief rallies after the death cross have been less and less and less. So if we've gone from 195 to 125 to 70%, well, then the final one could be a lower high. With diminishing returns, a 35% rally would put Bitcoin near $130,000 by 2026. Now, if we look at total 2 here, altcoins have been getting absolutely destroyed, and we're back now at the 50 SMA and the EMA. Also, the stochastic RSI is down here at 4 and 0. Now, usually when we first get down here, it doesn't mean that we've bottomed and that price is going to reverse right away. As you can see, when we first get down at these levels, and we got down here back in February of 2025, this was after the altcoin market sold off drastically and was just consolidating right here before continuing lower. Also back here in May of 2024, we saw several fake outs here where you would see a bullish cross, bearish cross, bullish cross, bearish cross. Then the altcoin market found a bottom. Then we made a recovery back to the upside. And at that stage, the altcoin market was right here. So I would just expect some extreme volatility for the altcoin market sideways or down until this downtrend breaks and we see some sign of strength here, like what we saw back here or what we see back here on top of these moving averages on the weekly chart here. So unless we see an aggressive recovery like this and altcoins hold on top of the moving average, I would be very, very careful longing any projects right now, unless you're catching short-term day trades on the more micro time frames. So if we go from the weekly to the daily, I would want to see a bullish divergence set up here. So if I'm looking at the relative strength index, I look at the lowest low, and I see if we're putting in higher lows, and also I look at the price chart and I see where that lowest low is. So right now, I'm not seeing a bullish divergence because if I connect the wick of the low on the 4th of November to the low on the 14th of November, it's simply a higher low matching the RSI. So if I go from the daily to the 4-hour, I simply see the exact same thing. It's a higher low on the relative strength index, but it's just a higher low on the price chart. So this is not a bullish divergence. So I'll go into the 1-hour chart and we'll zoom in even more here to the most recent lowest low on the 14th of November. And now we can see a bullish divergence because if you look at the relative strength index on the 13th of November and then you connect that with the lows on the price chart, you can clearly see the price chart was making lower lows in this downtrend here. The RSI bottomed out at 21, and now the RSI has been making higher lows. So this is actually what I like to see here for a short-term temporary reversal, is after the bullish divergence is done playing out, we see the lowest low on the price chart, and the relative strength index has bottomed between 30 and 50 is what I like to look for. And then we start the reversal on the upside, and we start to put in these higher lows, showing some sign of support here while the relative strength index bottoms out between 30 and 50. So that's what's happening right now. So this actually is a really, really good setup here for a potential reversal. And we would want to see some sign of strength here above resistance. Now, resistance is going to be roughly around $1.33 trillion. So here's an example of your risk to reward. You take your long position tool, you put it at where we're at right now. We haven't seen a break of structure yet because we're still in a downtrend. But if I put my stop loss here right below the recent swing low, and I look to see what a 2-to-1 risk to reward would be, this would put the take profit here at about $1.38 trillion. Now, obviously, you're not trading this chart here because this is total 2. This is everything other than Bitcoin. But this gives you an understanding of what's happening with the altcoin industry to see if it makes sense to go into projects like Ethereum, XRP, which we'll get into in a little bit, BNB, Solana, ADA, Chainlink, you name it. Because usually when the tides rise, so do all ships, and when the tides fall, so do all ships. So a lot of the altcoin charts are going to look very similar to Total 2's chart. And if you see this, we're in a clear downtrend here. And if we look at XRP's chart on the daily here, you can clearly see that we've just been in this downtrend here, getting rejected with lower highs, in lower lows, and eventually this downtrend is going to come to an end, and we're going to see XRP experience a bounce in the short term too. So looking at the daily chart, let's see if we can spot a bullish divergence, connecting the lowest low on the relative strength index, which is right here on the 10th of October. And you can clearly see the RSI has been putting in higher lows. Now, because this wick is so drastic to the downside, I'm just going to measure the candle body closes here so it's more accurate, because that was just massive manipulation. And you can see this is a very clear bullish divergence for XRP on these candle body closes here, with lower lows on the price chart and higher lows on the RSI. Also, this is exactly what I want to see with the RSI bottoming out here between 30 and 50. And now we're simply just putting in higher lows here on the RSI. And we've been below 50 for the majority of this downtrend, building up pressure here eventually for the RSI to spring back to the upside. Now, depending on where this bottom comes in for XRP, I would actually expect it to be more than likely an equal low, and then for us to rebound to the upside and for us to do something like this, and then a massive explosion for XRP. So I think we're pretty close to the bottom. If we make it another lower low, then I don't think we're going much lower for XRP before we make a recovery. Now, I could be wrong here, and I'm okay with being wrong. Again, I'll play this video again over the next few weeks, and we'll see what happens here. But based on what I'm seeing on the daily chart, this is actually looking incredibly bullish. This is the type of pattern that I like to see, where momentum starts to slow down here to the downside, and then we start to see these equal lows or higher lows get put in here, and then eventually we see a massive spring back to the upside on the price chart. So if we go into the 4-hour chart, let's see if we can spot some confluence here for this bullish divergence. So you can see on the 10th of October, the lowest low on the RSI, we're forming higher lows here. We'll measure the candle body closes as well. And you can see this momentum to the downside is slowing down here. And now XRP is going to see if it can hold on to this zone of support here and put in a higher low or an equal low to the low from the 4th of November to the 7th of November, while the relative strength index is coming back down to this ascending support. So if the RSI bottoms off of this ascending support and starts to reverse back to the upside, we start to see the price chart reverse back to the upside here. This could be a much bigger trend reversal here. But we're still not out of the woods yet. You want to wait for some signs of strength here, and you want to wait for price action confirmation. So if I go into the 1-hour chart, we're going to get even more technical here to talk about expectations and where the bottom is likely in this downtrend here, because it's very clear since the 10th of November, XRP's just been putting in lower lows and lower highs here since rolling over. And I also called this in another video here talking about I was expecting XRP to roll over from this rally right here because of what I was seeing on the stochastic RSI, and also a bearish divergence on the relative strength index. So right now, what we're looking for is the opposite. We're confirmed on the daily, we've confirmed on the 4-hour. Now on the hourly, you can see the lowest low on the relative strength index is at 29. It's not as oversold as I want it to be. I'd like to see it between like 20 and 25, but nonetheless, you can see the RSI has been putting in higher lows, and currently right now we're at a higher low if we reverse from here. And then connecting the lows from the 13th of November, you can just clearly see we're putting in lower lows right here. So we've confirmed a bullish divergence on the daily, on the 4 hour, on the hourly. This is strong confluence here. Now we just need to see if the RSI can hold above 27 while the price chart puts in a lower low. And then we wait for price action confirmation. So XRP could go a little bit lower in the short term, but eventually this downtrend will come to a close here. And this is crazy how much the market makers are literally selling off XRP. I mean, look at this descending resistance right here and how it comes up exactly to this descending resistance multiple times and then just gets rejected from it. So XRP is just going to stay in this downtrend until one of two things happens here. Number one, we get an aggressive sell-off to the downside, and it's just this massive free fall right here, and then it gets bought up off of the wick, then the low comes in and we reverses. Or it's just this slow grind down here, then we reverse back to the upside. Eventually, there'll be a reversal coming, and usually that reversal happens after we see the stochastic RSI bottom out down here. So right now, because the K-line and the D-line are at 17 and 1.3, we still have some more momentum closer to 0 before we reverse to the upside. So XRP is just likely to continue selling off here in the short term until the stochastic RSI bottoms out. And then we'll see if it's a clean bullish cross and we just reverse to the upside, or if it's a little more exaggerated, like what happened right here, like what happened back here, what happened back here. So on the first bullish cross, I don't like to get aggressively bullish because that could be a fake out. You know, price could reverse and then come back down. Similar to what happened right here. You see these recoveries, they're short-lived, and then a final capitulation, liquidate the leverage traders, then we reverse back to the upside and back test the previous range as support. What I like to look for is this price action right here, where XRP shows some sign of strength where it breaks out, and then it back tests like a previous range as support here before a much more macro reversal to the upside. So you still have some time here on XRP's price chart for the low to come in, and then what you want to watch here is you want to watch this initial breakout and then this sell-off back here, back down to a previous resistance as support to look something like this for XRP's price chart. So even if you have to wait a little bit and you're buying a little bit higher than you are right now, at least you're not catching a falling knife, because this downtrend, we don't know when the bottom's going to come in. So you need to see some strength and a sign of recovery off of the low once the low finally shows itself. Otherwise, you just get caught buying the dip that keeps on dipping. That's like buying XRP, you know, right here at $2.38. Then it goes down to $2.29. Then it goes down to $2.23. Then it goes all the way down to $2.06 here. If you buy all those dips, then you pretty much have to wait until, you know, XRP clears the first dip that you bought, and then look at your risk here to the downside that you had to wait for, and then your reward is virtually nothing depending on when you're buying. So for example, if you buy right now, let's just say XRP keeps on dipping, and then it finally makes a recovery here, and then it just continues to the downside. Well, look at your risk here that you have to deal with, and then your reward becomes limited to the upside. Whereas if you wait for the bottom to come in, then you watch for some sign of strength here on a recovery rally in a back test, like what happens right here, well, then your risk just becomes where you set your stop loss here. And then this becomes your risk to the downside, and your reward becomes this to the upside. So you can clearly see how there's more money waiting for this sell-off to end. So I think it's almost done. I think we're going to see a bounce for XRP. The real question is just how much lower do we go? So I'd want to see the stochastic RSI come down here to 0. That's just step number 1. And then I go into the more micro time frames like the 30-minute or the 15-minute to see what's happening on the relative strength index and the stochastic RSI to look for more confluence of these bullish divergences here to see if we're holding between 30 and 50. And we are right now. So this tells me that the momentum to the downside is slowing down here, and eventually XRP is going to make an aggressive recovery to the upside. So before you consider longing XRP, just wait for confirmation on the 4-hour chart. We are experiencing a bearish cross right here for this fake out while we're still in this downtrend. So the stochastic RSI is likely to come back down a little bit further on the 4-hour, then reverse back to the upside after this downtrend is done. Then we'll see an aggressive pump for XRP, like what happened back here, like what happened back here, or like what happened right here. Eventually, we will see this happen. In order to make money when that happens, you need to have enough money in a trading account to be able to capitalize from that move. So the question that I have for you is this. What if you could trade with $100,000 without ever risking any of your own capital? Well, I'm doing it right now, trading a 100K funded account with 0 of my own money on the line. I just paid a one-time evaluation fee to take a trading test, and that's it. And we've been getting flooded with messages of people asking us, how do I get crypto loans? How do I leverage trade without risking my own capital? And that's exactly why we partnered with Breakout, the sponsor of today's video, a crypto prop trading firm recently acquired by cryptocurrency exchange Kraken with over 10 million clients in 190 countries, processing billions of dollars in trading volume and over 1.5 billion in 2024 and over 15 billion in 2025 in revenue. they'll fund you up to $200,000 for passing one simple trading test. And if you pass the test, you get to keep up to 90% of the profits on your trading account. And you get to withdraw your profits anytime after you pass the test. Now, here's the problem that I see most people face when they get started in crypto. They go to an exchange like Coinbase or Binance.com, and they just start trading with, let's say, $10,000 of their own money. And that's not a small amount of money for most people. That's your mortgage payment. That's food. That's electricity. That's your rent. So one bad trade or one black swan event, like what happened at the beginning of October where altcoins saw the biggest liquidation event in history, then poof, your account could be completely blown or go to zero. And then your rent's late, your savings is completely wiped out, your family is stressed out. So you're not trading to win. Trading with your own money is survival. Whereas trading $100,000 of risk-free capital is freedom. In fact, if all you have is $10,000, you should never be trading with all of that in the first place. The smartest move that you could possibly do is take just 10% of that, which is $1,000, and start trading with Breakouts Capital, which is acquired by Kraken. And all you have to do is pay for a simple trading test for a 100K account or a 200K account. And if you pass the test, then you're able to trade with six figures without depositing or risking any of your own money. Now, let's say you fail the test. Well, you only lose the cost that it took to take the test rather than a full $10,000 because you shouldn't even be trading with $10,000 of your own money in the first place if you can't pass a simple little $1,000 test. And the best part here is there's no limit on retries. So when you click the link in the description below and you want to get funded for a 100K account like what I did, well, it only costs $1,000 here. And the best part is there's no limit on retries. And so that's 10x better risk management here. And that's how you prove you actually know what you're doing. And this is the smartest strategy that the best traders in the world use. And that's OPM, other people's money. So what I'll do for you is I'll leave a link in the description below. It'll take you to this page right here. And all you have to do is click the button that says start trading. And what I did was select the classic 100K funded account. Then you simply enter in your details to create your account, select the account balance. I'd recommend going with 100K. The account type is one step, the plan is classic, and if you enter in the affiliate code 777 on your checkout, it'll give you the maximum discount, and then check the box that says 90 to 10% profit split, because it's only $100 extra, and it pays for itself in your first payout. So if you skip it, you're only getting 80% of the profit split, so that extra 10% on the table is well worth it. Then you simply purchase the test, you'll get $100,000 loaded in your account, and then the profit target to pass the test is $110,000. So you just have to grow the account by 10% with an unlimited time frame. There's no deadline here. And just keep your account within a max daily loss of 4%. That'd be like $4,000 and a max drawdown of $6,000. And then you can withdraw your profits on demand 24/7 in USDC. Now, quick disclaimer, when you go through the link below and you use code 777 to get the maximum discount on your 100K or 200K funded account test, we do earn a small commission, but it helps support value-based videos like this. So click the link below in the description right now, take the test, and let's get you funded.